Hey everyone, and welcome back to the second episode of Keep It Open. I'm Aaron,
And I'm Mitchell.
and today we're going to start off with our routine segment. Is it rude?
All right, everybody. So today we're talking a little bit about tipping. So everything from we'll go into, when should you tip? Hint, it might be always. How much should you tip? And then also, some of the pressures that come around that. So Aaron, why don't we start off with what's your thought on tipping at let's start with dine-in restaurants.
Dine-in restaurants.
At a restaurant.
Okay.
Sit inside, you have a waiter or waitress.
Yeah. So when it comes to dine-in restaurants, I always tip a minimum of 20%.
Okay.
Always. Even if like the service was terrible and like the food wasn't great, which again, I don't tip based on the food. I tip based on the service, right? But I don't know. My perspective is like that's a person working for a living, like they're doing their damn job. They don't get paid like a huge base, like, hourly or anything. So when it comes to restaurants, I always tip 20% minimum. If the service isn't amazing or the waiter's like just really cool or something like that, then I'll go a little bit above and beyond and try to like, be generous with it if I can, right? Yeah.
Did your parents teach you that, or is that something you pick? Okay.
Yeah, my parents always tipped like at least 20% or above, which I think I definitely learned it from there.
Interesting. I'm on a different spectrum. This is an interesting topic, I feel, because there are no written rules in the United States, and it works differently in every country,
That's true.
But yeah, my parents are pretty cheap in general, unfortunately. But
that's where you got it from. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm very cheap too. So
don't worry, guys. I'll tell you his dirty little secret sometimes.
They go and subsequently, I also kind of do this, but they start at 15%. So they'll always tip 15 if we're dining. And then if it's, stellar service, 20-25%. And we'll go, potentially up from there if it's just, the best thing we've ever had.
Yeah.
For me, what I find myself doing is, if I have a meal, I'll figure out what 15% is, and then I'll usually round up to the nearest dollar. Yeah. So it's a flat amount. So it usually ends up being somewhere between 15 and like 20%.
See, I always do that too. Like, and I always tip in cash. Like if I go out to eat, I try to have some cash on me. Like, if I'm going somewhere nice, I'll stop at an ATM. Because I want that waiter to be able to take it home with them, because I've waited tables. I don't know if you have.
I've done similar. I've done Uber Eats, DoorDash, stuff like that. It's kind of similar, but yeah.
So you do get cashed out. Like, if I don't know if every restaurant does this, but like at the end of the night, if you get a bunch of tips on the tab, like you print out like a giant receipt of all your tips, and then they cash you out. But like, it's just so much easier if you just have the cash
just
in
take
hand,
home the cash,
and you don't have to like go to your manager and like give them the thing, and they got to go through it and like go to the till and take out cash for you.
For sure.
And it's just like,
actually, now that you mention it, I used to deliver for Panera Catering. So
nice,
cash tips were the best because you didn't have to. We had to fill out like a stupid form to get the tip if they wrote it on the credit card.
Exactly. To fill out a form and like take it to the manager. It's just like a whole bunch of extra work.
Exactly. Okay. So what about takeout restaurants? So if you get food to take out and you're not eating there, they just prepare the food. They've got it in bags for you. You roll up, pick it up. Are you tipping there? And
so I might get some flame for this one, unless it's a restaurant that I really like and like I go to like all the time, like it's like a favorite spot of mine. I don't tip. I don't tip. If I'm going to pick it up and like they just have my order, I don't tip. I'll admit it.
Dude,
because you're tipping for service. You're tipping for the service, right? You're not really tipping for the food.
Yeah. I guess between we're on the same page on this one, so it's probably not that interesting of a conversation, but I do the same thing. And it's weird.
People listening are probably like, you animals.
Yeah, these guys suck. Unsubscribe.
You tip always tip. It's like, no,
now,
don't.
where I get pressured to do it is, man, it's the worst when some restaurants nowadays have those iPads that kind of flip around.
Yes, I actually.
Everybody behind you can see.
So my mom and I went to one taco today, and we just went through the drive-through, and they have one of those, and they flip it around and hold it out for you. And you know, like my mom was sitting next to me and like we get the food or whatever, and like there's three options, like the 15 20 20 15 20 25, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, god damn it. So I was like, man, I eat here a lot, so I hit 15, and I was like, screw it. Like plus you got a decent amount of food, but
if you have a line of people behind you, don't want to be the guy who presses no tip. I mean.
It's like that's freaking rude. But they also have a little bucket, so like if you want, you just like chuck $1 in there or whatever. But I think we're of the same mindset, and I wonder what everyone else thinks. So definitely leave your thoughts on that in the comments below, or tweet at us or something. Let us know what you think. Do you tip when you pick up takeout? And then I think the last two that we should cover is let's do delivery. Do you tip on delivery, and how much?
I'm gonna be honest, Aaron. I don't get delivery, so
okay, all right, it's sweet. So this one defers to me.
For me.
I am the delivery king. I spend way too much money. I'm a platinum Uber Eats member. Wow. I get free stuff from Uber all the time because I've spent so much money on delivery. I tip 20%. 20% of the order. If I'm gonna be lazy and a potato and not make food or go get food, the person who is bringing me the food will
at least
get a financial reward for me being lazy, and I will assume that financial responsibility.
I used to deliver for them, so I feel that, man.
I did too. I did it in LA though, and it was kind of shit because there's like there's no parking, and so like you have to like find parking, get the food, get in the car, get to the place, find parking, drop it off. I feel like out here in Austin,
like leaving blinkers everywhere,
dude. I feel like out here in Austin, it'd actually be much more lucrative because there's parking everywhere.
Yeah. Unless you're downtown, but for the most part, everything parking is pretty good. So
yeah, exactly. So okay, all right.
The last one.
Tip your delivery drivers, guys. It is rude.
So yes, tip your delivery driver.
It is rude not to tip a delivery driver. Okay, I stand by that.
That's definite. Yeah, we've decided that. The last one is bars.
Yep.
So if you go up to someone and they're like, you want to keep it open, or you want to close it?
Exactly.
And you're like, I want to close it. I just had one drink.
Yep.
How much, or do you tip? And then if so, how much?
So I know there's like different theories on this, and different perspectives. I will tip an amount per drink. Yeah.
That gets complex. Jeez.
It can get a little complex, but like, so, you can do a percentage off the tab. You can do like 20% or whatever. But so let me dive into this a little bit more. Let me unpack it.
Okay.
So in New Orleans, when I used to go out a lot, and I had like a bunch of like neighborhood bars that I would go to, and I was a door guy at a bar, I wouldn't open a tab. I would pay cash, and I would tip on every drink I was given in that moment. So like, if I was with my, friend and we're at the bar and I'm getting the first round, we get 2 beers and 2 shots. I'm giving them $4 extra, $1 per drink, right?
Mm-hmm. And then a service that's associated
exactly,
with each drink,
exactly. Okay. And it's like, I got 4 drinks. Here's an extra $1 a drink. Throw it on the bar. If I had a $5 bill left over, I just throw down a 5.
Keep the change kind of thing.
Keep the change, exactly. Like And then if I'm at like a nicer bar, a nicer place, and we have a tab running, and at the end of the night, it's $80 in drinks, $100 in drinks, then I'll generally like do like 25%. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because again, it's all about the service. And I'm probably feeling friendly because I'm a little drunk.
So do you think there's a difference between, like giving you a Coors Light, cracking open a can versus doing crafting a cocktail?
Drink? Yeah, 100%. But
okay,
I mean, that's more so on me, right? Like their financial like reward shouldn't be based on my drinking preference. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But yeah, I don't know. I also feel like I'm much more inclined to tip my bartenders because like, I don't know, the bars that I like to go to, they're much more like laid back, casual, like, I don't know. I love dive bars. I know we've talked about this. I love dive bars. I love
you love your dive bars.
I do, like seedy, dark, like locals only type things where everyone's just like drinking tequila and whiskey and beer and like, getting wasted. But I don't know. I feel like it's important. Like if you don't tip your bartender, you're the scum of the earth. I'm sorry. I'll just say it. If you don't tip your bartender, there's something fucking wrong with you.
But takeout food, you're good to go.
yeah. Takeout food. You know what? I support it. It's not rude. But if you do not tip your fucking bartender, were you raised by wolves? Like, what? No, it's just,
I gotta agree with you on that.
Like, that's just the epitome of rude.
I think I do similar. I end up just doing kind of 15% rounded to the nearest dollar. And if the person's especially nice or it's an especially complex drink, then I'll tip a little more. So
yeah, and I also think like it depends on the setting. It depends on like the transaction, right? Like again, like if you're paying cash for each drink as it comes, you just throw like some extra. Like if you give them a 20 and the total was 8, we just take a couple bucks off the change and throw it on the counter. You know what I mean? Like, as long as you're showing the bartender that you're like thanking them for their service, like it also, guys, I mean, also if a bartender knows that you tip, they get to you faster when it's busy. I'm gonna tell you that now. I'm gonna tell you that right now. So if you're at a bar on a Friday night and the first drink you get, you throw them a $5, trust me, the rest of the night, when they see 10 people at the bar and they see you put your hand up on the end, they're going to cut like 4 people and come to you. I promise. Pro tip. All right. Money talks. All right. Money talks.
Money talks. Yes, it does.
Yeah.
All right. Well, scum of the earth if you don't tip.
You're a scum of the earth if you don't tip. No.
Don't order Coors Lights.
Yeah. Don't order Coors Light, please. Anything's better than Coors Light. But yeah, so just to zoom out on the conversation a little bit, tipping culture is very American, right? It's a very American thing. From what I've read and from what I've seen and what I've heard from people I've talked to that have traveled or have lived in other places or from other places, tipping culture in like Europe and Asia and all that stuff, it's not really a thing. The people that are paid to give you service, they're paid to give you service. It's not on the the client or the not the client, I guess, like
just the customer, right?
Customer to pay the waiter. It's on the company, the restaurant, to pay the waiter for what they're doing. And so I think it's interesting that we're one of the only countries that like that's widespread through all the states for pretty much. I
remember I'm very ill traveled, by the way, but when I went to I did go to England once, and man, when we went to go to a restaurant, well, first of all, we paid with card every time, which apparently is people still pay often with cash there.
Oh, interesting.
And so we would pay with card, and we'd use a United States card over there, so they'd have to bring us the little machine, and they'd come up to us and they would hold it for us, in their hand while we put the card in there and signed our name and everything. What was weird though is that we also had to select a tip amount, like right when they were holding it for us right in our face, and we'd select a tip amount in front of them. And I don't think we didn't know tipping wasn't a cultural thing there, but so we were like, oh god, well we have to tip the most. Like they're literally in our face while we're doing this, and it just felt like a lot of pressure. It was like, I don't want to be a jerk. I mean,
you got a guy staring at you holding the machine like,
dude, they were staring
what you gonna do? 20%?
Yeah, exactly.
25?
Exactly.
15? Oh, really? 15? Okay. All right.
15, yeah. Typical Americans.
I hope you never come back here again. Yeah, typical Americans. Yeah. See you next time.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought that was really kind of strange, but
definitely
interesting.
No, it is. It is. It's definitely really interesting. I think it also it harkens back to like an older age in America, right? Like I think that culture just came from like a different age, like when the dollar bill was stronger, inflation wasn't maybe such a thing. Like
I think that I read once somewhere, and I could be totally wrong here, but I think it stems from a sort of servant like slave culture in the past. When if I remember correctly, people would get paid poor wages, and then this would be a way to make up for that. Right. If you felt the service was a certain way.
Interesting.
Again, if I'm totally wrong on that, please somebody,
well,
email us.
If you're right on that, we should get rid of tipping because that is fucked up.
Right. Well, so that's what, if I remember the article correctly, that is one of the thoughts about tipping in general, is that, we should, a lot of people think we should just bake it into the
I do
pay for the employees.
I do. Yeah. And also I think that you'll get a better service more consistently because people are just getting paid better and they don't have to worry about you know, what you think of their service. You know, like if I'm the waiter and I think I've provided excellent service, but the customer just doesn't, then they don't feel entitled to tip on like a large check, let's say. And then like, you know, that could have been like half my take home for the night.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like, I remember when I was working at a restaurant in New Orleans, it was a really busy time of year, really touristy time of year. And there was a couple that came into the restaurant and they ordered like steaks and drinks and dessert. They went all out, and it was a pretty healthy check. They left me like 70 cents as a tip.
70 cents.
Yeah, they left me 70 cents.
Oh no.
Yeah, I quit that night.
Really?
Yeah, I quit. I was like, this is stupid, man.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was working at a nightclub, and then I ended up getting a job at Guitar Center as a salesman because I know a lot about like music equipment and all that stuff. But and I was already kind of thinking about it. But yeah, I got a 70-cent tip. I think the bill was like $200 or something like. And yeah, so
geez.
So I just walked to my manager and I just put the tray like with the change on her desk, and I was like, I can't remember her name, but I was like, I'm going home. And she just looked at me and she was like, thanks, appreciate you, like it was nice to have you here. she didn't argue with me at all. She was like, I don't blame you. She was like, I get it, man, like, you know, and not everyone's cut out for it, right? Like, and I'll totally own that. Like, some people can look at that change and then like just in their head be like, man, fuck you guys, and then just move on with their day. Going. For me, I was like, no, I'm not gonna subject myself to that like over and over and over again, because I know it's gonna happen again. That's not the only time that's gonna happen to me. And dude, it's like dehumanizing. It's dehumanizing.
It is, it is. Like, especially if you're getting paid a couple bucks an hour, like for the base wages and stuff.
And don't get me wrong, you're hoping on you're hoping on people's generosity, right? Right. And people can be cold. We all know that. So I mean, and don't get me wrong, like I have friends that are still waiters today, and they've gone from like, you know, your regular restaurants to like your 5-star, you know, Michelin chef, like, and they make bank, like they make like 6 figures good money.
Oh geez, wow.
And the work is so much easier, but again, like, you know, there's a lot more knowledge that goes into that. Like, you have to know the wine lists and the pairings, and you know, you're serving like, you know, high profile business people or like celebrities, and you know, there's another bar, right? But you can definitely make money, you know, being a waiter.
Those,
you just
those
have to
people
be
who
cut out for it, or maybe smart about it.
God,
instead of being a waiter in a
I don't know, whatever restaurant you're at.
I mean, well, you know, like Capital,
the scum of the earth.
Yeah, exactly. You got to be at like Capital Grill or something, or like you know, I knew some really successful waiters down in San Diego in California. I forget the names of the restaurants because they're way the hell out of my price range. But yeah, these guys would walk home with like $800 a night. Like,
Jesus.
Yeah. $800 like cash a night.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah. So the moral of the story is tip. Motherfuckers, tip. It's rude if you don't, unless you're picking up food. Unless you're picking it up.
Very clear about that. That's the third time we mentioned it, and we stand behind it.
Awesome. Well, we'll keep that open, and we can move on to the meat and potatoes of today's episode. Yes. Yeah. God, I just made myself hungry. Fuck.
Today we are going to recount our experiences from the first few days and first few weeks of COVID. And so as at the time that we're recording this, it's starting to sort of, you know, ramp back up in the United States
Delta
here
variant.
And become a worry, sort of the forefront of people's minds. You know, a lot of people thought we were really out of it. I thought we were out of it.
To be honest, crazy to still be having these conversations, right? About
and having them again. You know, like it's the same conversation.
And I'm sure that all of you listening, you know, I'm sure you've heard many podcasts or videos or news articles about COVID. So we know this isn't the most original topic, but it's something that we've all been living through, right? It's something that we're living through again. And so I think that, as Mitchell said, with the resurgence of, you know, quarantine and habits and stuff like that, you know, safety habits, it's worth talking about, you know, how it started for us, and I guess kind of where we are now with it, right?
Yeah, and not to preach or anything. We just want to share our
not to preach at all. Yeah, cool.
Well, do you want me to go first?
I don't mind.
All right. Well, so I'll take it. So from what I remember, March of 2020 is, you know, when everything kind of exploded.
Yep.
To kind of set the scene, I was working at the Whole Foods corporate office, which was a pretty cool gig, to be honest. I mean, I was on the new food development team. Yeah, for the prepared foods department. So we were talking, I mean, pizzas, chicken scallopini, wings, like all these different types of food. Yeah. All the new food that happens at Whole Foods in that area where you can just kind of buy and eat. Yeah. That's, you know, the team I was on was kind of in charge of developing that.
Awesome.
So yeah. So, you know, for me, it was really one weekend where it all kind of happened. I think it was maybe March like 12th or something like that. I can't remember the exact day, but so Thursday, you know, Thursday of this weekend, at this point, nobody had heard of masks, but, you know, most people had heard of COVID at this point, but really it was kind of this thing that was happening in China or some other country.
Yep.
And so, you know, Thursday night, my family was actually in San Antonio. I was in Austin, and I was like, well, let me go visit my family. They were vacationing up there.
Sure.
And so I was like, well, let me go visit them for one night. So I go visit them in San Antonio. They're at a hotel. So I go to the hotel, we eat dinner and everything. And I'm like keeping my distance from everybody a little bit. And they're like, Mitchell, what are you doing? You're scared of that whole COVID thing? Like, and I was like, I'm not scared of it. You know, I'm just trying to be safe though.
Sure.
And they were just crapping all over me, man. They're like, what are you doing? Give me a hug here. You know?
You're believing the fake news. You won't even give your family a hug. Like,
exactly.
We're going to have some similarities in our stories. I'll tell you that right now. Yep.
Okay, exactly. My mom was like, you don't need to believe that stuff. And I was like, you might be right. You might be right. But for right now, I'm just going to keep it safe. And I was only there for one night. So,
right.
Not even, I just went for the evening for dinner, and I was going to drive back to Austin.
Yeah,
and
totally.
For people not from Texas, they're about 45 minutes away from me.
It's not far. Yeah.
Not far at all. So I did that, and I've got some notes here actually that I wrote out a little bit. So then that night though, my cousin was there with my family, and she's a little older, but she was telling me like, Mitchell, I've been reading the news. You might want to start stockpiling some stuff. And I was like, stockpiling? What do you mean? And so basically that night on the way home from San Antonio, she had gotten to me. She had worried me quite a bit. So I went to go buy a ton of water.
Yep.
And so I filled up the back of my trunk with bottled water. And if you wondered where all the bottled water went, whenever it was in Mitchell's trunk, it was like people like me who went and filled up our trunk. So
yeah,
but I bought nothing else, by the way. So
okay, just water. Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Like, you know,
so was your plan to sell the water for food when the apocalypse happened? You were going to be like the water guy,
barter,
like
probably a barter. Yeah.
When the barter system,
something, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so I went to go get that water. You know, I was in line, and at this point, there were the grocery store is packed with people. Yep. You know, at this point, it was already. This is Thursday night of that week when everything kind of shut down, and people were already, you know, stocks or the shelves are starting to be, you know, empty.
Yeah.
They weren't restocking anything. They're out of everything. So
yep.
And you know, the stock market was like crashing and everything.
You're like,
shit was kind of going down. And but I was like, you know, the virus really isn't around us yet. So anyway, I go to work the next day on Friday back in Austin. And, you know, go through the work day. Basically, it's getting towards the end of the day. We're kind of all in a conference room, and they're with my team of 4 or 5 people. And they're getting texts from their family, like saying, hey, everybody, like, you know, wash your hands, hunker down. Like, this is going to be bad and everything. Yep. And mind you, we're still, we're Whole Foods. We're talking about fried chicken or you know, healthy, you know, foods and vegetables. And we're talking
Everyone's just
planning new product development,
you
know? Yeah. And, anyway, so basically we left that day, and little did I know, you know, that would be the last day that I ever saw that office until I left that job, but picked up my stuff is the last time I saw that. And so I went home that day, and by that time I was pretty scared, right? Like the news had kind of caught wind of everything.
Absolutely.
Family members were texting me. And so I had to pump gas. I remember really clearly. And I was like, shit, how am I going to pump gas and stay sanitary? And so I went to this gas station, and I I took a napkin out of the console of my car and I used that to like hold the pump and everything. Cause I was like, man, this virus is going to kill me if I don't. and this is only like a day after me being
You're like, it's like, coming. It's here.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was like, you know, everybody was scared at that point. Though,
yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, it was terrifying. It was terrifying.
Terrifying. And then after that, that evening I actually went home to Houston. My family had driven home to Houston from San Antonio. I went home to Houston from Austin, kind of just, you know, like if the world's ending, might as well be with my family. Be with family.
So, yeah, totally.
So I drove home and I've getting close to the sort of end of my recount here, but you know, I've never heard my dad so nervous actually.
Wow.
And my dad's a pretty lighthearted, happy dude, and he called me on the phone and he was like whispering from his work, and he was like, Mitch, can you pick me up some canned soup, some water, some like Lysol wipes if they have it, like get anything you can, because like the stores are wiped here,
like hit.
And I was like, shoot, I'll try. And so I stopped at 3 or 4 different Walmarts in like the rural Texas countryside on the way home, hoping that they'd have something. But by that point, I mean, there was some soup that I got
cleaned out pretty much.
Yeah, but it was absolutely, you know, toilet paper, you know, no chance.
Nothing. No, yeah, dude, the great toilet paper shortage of 2020, that was man.
Wild, dude. That was wild.
Yeah, it was insane.
People are reselling it on Facebook and
literally. Stuff. Actually, though, like it was nuts. Yeah,
it was the apocalypse.
Yeah, it was a taste.
It was crazy.
It was a taste.
So I got some cream of mushroom soups, like, but you're not even supposed to eat cream of mushroom like by itself. I'm pretty sure. Like I think you're supposed to like, mix that into other stuff or whatever. But that's like what I could get. I got like 1 bag of dried pasta, and and I was like, this is all I got, Dad. Sorry, but I got water because I picked it up.
Got water. We're good on water. Don't worry about that.
So I gave him a couple cases of water, and
oh my god.
Then I got the call from my manager that weekend that said, you know, stay home for the foreseeable future, and that's when work from home started, and that's when COVID really started.
And that's kind of where we've been for the most part since then, right?
Exactly. And so again, the last sort of year and a half of my life's been a blur since then, but I remember that
for real,
those first 2 or 3 days super clearly.
Oh yeah, 100%. I do too. So yeah, I was living in Los Angeles at the time, and I was working at a barber shop. I wasn't a barber. I was just like, I ran the front desk, right? So I get there first, I open, I make sure everything's clean, you know, I turn on the music and the lights, and, you know, get everyone's station set up with like clean towels, whatever, open the door, put the sign out, you know, answer the phone as calls come in, you know, and I remember distinctly talking to one of the barbers. We were sitting by the computer, he was sitting in my chair, I was chilling like there was like a little window in the front with like a seat, and so I had my feet up on the desk, and he was chilling, and we were talking. He was like, have you heard about this shit? And
Life is good.
Right. And then he was like, have you heard about this corona thing? And I was like, yeah, I mean, I've seen the news, like, but I don't know, from what I've read, it just sounds like it's gonna be a bad flu season, you know? And he's like, yeah. He's like, I don't think it's gonna be that big of a deal, right? And I was like, yeah, probably not. I cannot stress how fucking wrong we were in the span of a week after that conversation. A week, man. We were so wrong. And but the thing is, like, also, like, I try to not be like sensationalist. I try to not, like, you know, go over the top with things until it's like, I guess, deserved to be like really concerned, because I don't like to worry about shit. Like, you know, life's already hard enough and like all that stuff. So it's like, why like freak yourself out about things until you need to freak out about things, right? So fast forward about a week from that conversation, and the news is getting more populated with, you know, stories about COVID, coronavirus, and all that. And I'm like, oh man, this is actually this is kind of this is a thing
picking
now.
Up.
Picking up. I gotta tell you this. All right, so this is gonna be my, like, I think I have like 1 or 2 anecdotes, but this is the one that really like cracked me up and also scared me shitless a little bit. So there was a gas station across the street from the barbershop, and I would go over there maybe like once a day and, you know, grab me and the boys some snacks, right? Some energy drinks, coffee, soda, water, you know, candy, whatever the fuck. And so I go over there one day, and it was probably like one or two attendants that I would run into. There was like a younger dude and there was a lady. So the younger dude was in there, and I walk in, and I shit you not, my man is decked out in like SWAT gear. Like he's it looks like he's like a bomb defusal specialist. Like he's got gloves on. He's got double layered gloves on. He's got like the cotton ones over the silicone ones, however you layer them or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
And then he's got N95. And then he's got a plastic face shield, the full face shield. And this is before shit hit the fan. Like this is like
masks are foreign still.
Yeah,
right?
this was like so. So I look at him, I'm like, oh, you're taking this like really seriously, huh? And he was like, man, if this shit gets to the birds and it goes avian, like this could be the end of society. And I was just like, all right, cool. Well, thanks for the Skittles.
Wait, is this guy working a shift right now?
Yeah,
too?
yeah, dude. And it's like, cool, man. Thanks for the snacks and the doomsday, prophecy. Awesome, great.
Oh, man.
So, I'm walking back the block and a half or whatever it is to the barbershop, like just having an existential crisis. Like, oh my god, like. Is this guy freaking out, or is he like seeing the future? Like, is he right? Like, in the
event that like the 1% event that he's
like,
right.
I was like, am I the dumbass that's like, that guy's overreacting and then I die? Right. Or am I the smart person that says, shit, I need to start prepping because like this guy just gave me the tip, he just saved my life, And so I think I end up falling somewhere in the middle of the two. But so yeah, I go back in the shop and I tell all the guys and they're like, man, that dude's overreacting, blah, 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 whatever. And I was like, yeah, probably. But yeah, so then, things get serious, right? I remember being at my apartment and getting a group text from, like the head barber. And he's like, guys, it's mandated now by the state. We have to close. We can't open. We don't know how long we're going to be closed. Yada, yada. And so I lost my job. And, I had to apply for unemployment. And then I had a really terrible time at that. I think the first 3 months of COVID, I got one check and then the rest of the checks didn't show up for 3 months. And then so I ended up getting like a $5,000 check 3 months in.
One time. Right.
And then I started getting checks after that, but they were so overloaded that it was brutal. It was really brutal. I had to blow through a lot of money and savings and to survive. But yeah, before that, I mean, it was the same kind of disaster scene that you described in LA, maybe even a little bit worse because there's more people. I went to 4 grocery stores in like my immediate area, and I mean, people were running up and down the aisles, like actually running and sprinting and like grabbing crates of water and like toilet paper. And I remember like, I had to put together my like survival package over the course of like 3 or 4 grocery stores because they were sold out of shit. Toilet paper gone. Luckily, my roommate at the time had a Costco membership, and he went and got like a fuck ton of water and other stuff. But yeah, I mean, I remember I got like 2 giant ass cans of baked beans. Couscous and like whatever like else they had, like tuna.
So whatever was on the shelf.
Just whatever non-perishable stuff I could find. And then we hunkered down. And I mean, it was super scary, man. Everybody was, work from home, and the whole city kind of shut down. And if you like, at first, like restaurants were closed and everything too. And like, you couldn't even get delivery. You couldn't get takeout really for the first like couple weeks. And like, so it was kind of nutty. But yeah, I mean, that just became the norm, right? Yeah. And I started streaming. And so I was streaming on Twitch, and that definitely saved me from like a social standpoint, I also did have like 4 roommates. We had like a big condo, so I had a lot of people to spend time with. But to your point, I mean, if my family was close, I definitely would have gone to my family, but they're all on the East Coast and I'm on the West Coast, and trying to travel at that period of time was like, that doesn't seem like a good idea.
No,
like
not at all.
So I mean, it was crazy, man. It was mass hysteria. You walk into a grocery store and you're going down the aisles and they're picked
you're
clean.
Fighting people for stuff.
And you're just kind of like, I don't know, man. You have like an out of body experience when you're walking through. It's like a dystopian movie scene. It's like,
it was dystopian for sure.
Yeah, you're like, is this
when
really
they got
happening?
water in? They would be like rationing it. Like, they would have it behind gates, and one person controlled. You can only get one case per person.
Yeah, and it was the same thing here in Austin during the snowstorm.
Yeah, that's that's another thing, man. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, that was crazy. I was actually I was subleasing an apartment because I just moved back from back to Texas from I was living in Minneapolis. But,
Yeah.
so I was in that sublease for only a month before COVID hit, and I remember I had
I'm gonna grab a drink. I can still hear you though.
Okay. Yeah. This roommate that I had he was from Korea, actually, South Korea, and he was working at a restaurant. He also got unemployed, and he actually had to move all his stuff and his life back to Korea.
Oh my God.
The like third week of the pandemic.
That's terrifying.
Which is terrifying, crazy. Like he packed up everything, shipped it, I guess, and then then took a flight back over there, which was because he lost his job at a restaurant, and so he had to move back. And to make the worldwide travel during that time, the worldwide move is must have been crazy for him.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't even imagine, the kind of thoughts and emotions that you deal with doing something like that in the midst of.
He probably hasn't been back either. He's probably still over there.
He probably is.
I don't even know him that well. So
yeah. No, I mean, that's wild. It's definitely going back into. I think we talked about this briefly at a happy hour. Maybe I think you were there. Maybe not. I think you left early that happy hour. But we talked about how like the Delta variant and things were kind of like picking up again, and we talked about how difficult we thought it was going to be for people to revert back
to
the quarantine kind of lifestyle.
Yeah, okay.
Well, we're not there yet, right? We're not like on a full kind of quarantine. It's not as bad as like it was. People are getting vaccinated, and but I mean,
I don't think it'll go back to that though, man.
I hope not.
We've had a taste of
exactly
like life again, and for it to go back to that, I think it's gonna have to get significantly worse than it did.
And so that was kind of the conversation we were having, is like everyone, especially in Austin, like people are used to being able to go out to the bar and the restaurant again. And like, I mean, I went with some friends down to Rainy Street when they came to visit, and like, it was just a full on party scene again. And I was I mean, I had my mask on and I was like still maintaining distance from people as much as I could, but I was like, like, I was like, oh my God, like people really just, it's back to normal.
It's back to normal. Yeah.
And unfortunately, it isn't though. It really isn't.
Right.
And people are getting sick, and the numbers of people getting sick in colleges.
At the time we're recording this, I mean, it's almost as bad as the peak was at its worst. So
and so again, it's like, how do you expect people to revert? Because it was such a exciting time when things started to open back up again, and everyone's like, oh man, we're getting back to a sense of normalcy. And then, I'm reading stuff and talking to people, and I'm like, man, this isn't over, like by a long shot. And so, I mean, it's kind of crazy. I mean, we, just recently, we can't go into the office anymore. I mean, we can, but like, proof of vaccination, and you have to maintain the distance and wear the mask and everything. And so it's just like, might as well not go in, really. At that point, like, for everyone's safety. And so we're back kind of in that space again of like quasi quarantine. I think it's more so like workplaces is where you're seeing it the most, right?
Right. Which is interesting, because I mean, decisions, and I'm no politician or doctor, so but
really,
I mean, what I think about it, neither.
Oh shit!
Aren't you surprised?
I need a new host, man. I thought you had both those credentials.
It is like, man, we make some really irrational decisions sometimes.
We do
as communities.
We do,
and governments and people in general. Like the workplaces. I mean, just the one that I'm thinking of is you can go into the workplace if you're vaccinated, and it's our office anyway, and no dig on my employer. I love the employer, don't fire me. But but like you can go to a club, you can do whatever you want outside, and then the very next day or even the same day you could go into the office and be there. Like I think that's kind of an irrational. I mean, as long as you're vaccinated, though,
right? And so, again, I think that comes down to like the individual, right? Like, and then there's a sense of responsibility that I think a lot of people don't have, and I think it's a little weird. Like, it kind of shocks me, right? Like, I'm not going into the office, right? Like, so if I decided to go down to Rainy Street, which it's not my scene, but if some friends wanted to go and I was going to be social, and I was like, yeah, I'll go and I'll wear my mask and I'll have a think of Purell and I'll make sure that I like, clean my hands every now and then, and I keep my mask on and whatever, and blah, blah, blah. I would not go into the office for the next couple days after that. I would say, hey, I went out, I took safety precautions, but, I don't feel comfortable going into the office and being in close proximity to coworkers, right? Like, that's on me to be responsible. Now, luckily, like, we're not required to go into the office, so I don't even have to have that conversation with somebody. But for
people who are, right,
I would not go. I would say, listen, I may or may not have been exposed to something, and give me a couple days to make sure that I'm good before I go back in, right?
I'll be honest that I've been to Rainy a couple times and 6th Street and some others, and I usually don't wear a mask when I go. And my thought is, well, one, I've had a few libations. Two,
yeah, exactly.
Generally, and then two, though, I think that, I'm so close quarters with people. I do like that scene quite a bit, and I'm sure it's probably better to wear a mask, but I'm like, I don't do this that often. Maybe done it 3 or 4 times since 2020, and each time I'm like, well, if it happens to me, it happens to me. But I do try to stay away from like office and family and stuff after that kind of thing, just to kind of take extra precaution.
And again, like, when I'm sitting at a table with my friends, like, I'll take my mask off. It's like when we're walking on the street past groups and groups and groups of people and stuff like that, that's when I'll have a mask on. But the people that I'm with, like, I know they don't have it. I know they've all been tested. They've all been vaccinated. So it's like, it's a little different. But again, right, we all start to like bend the rules a little bit. Especially, like coming out of what we thought we were coming out of it. Everyone starts to bend the rules and like, okay, we're nearing the finish line. We can, we can let our guard down a bit. And then, it's a virus, right? So like it takes on a whole nother form.
And everybody feels like, everybody's special in their own mind, right? Like even when it was the height of it, when everyone was wearing masks, everyone was social distancing, everybody was not going to big events. People were like, well, if I go to a wedding,
it'll be fine.
It'll be fine. Like as long as everybody else doesn't go to a wedding. Or a big event or to the club or whatever, But I think we're not past it, but we're in a different world now where I think that people accepted the risk and know.
I think so too.
Whether that's good or bad, I think that's kind of where they're at now, I guess.
Yeah, no, 100%. I kind of live by the the phrase of it is what it is. Like, I'm not going to stress or try to change things that are outside of my control. And that really, in this time period, goes towards other people. If you don't want to get vaccinated, you don't want to wear a mask, you don't believe in COVID, that's your right. Like, truthfully, like, you're a human being. If you decide that, you don't want to do that stuff, don't do it. It's not what I would do, and it's not what I think people should do. I think people should pay attention to it and take safety precautions and, be cautious. But again, like, there's a lot of argument around that stuff, right? Like, and so it's one of those things where it's like, people are entitled to their opinions and they're going to feel the way they feel and do what they want to do. And, me sitting here saying, well, you should put on a mask and you should social distance, it's not going to do anything. It's just more noise,
Yeah. And, so, to truly convince somebody who at this point is not vaccinated or has never maybe taken the precautions, it is very difficult. I have a lot of close people in my life who aren't vaccinated.
Same. I have a few friends as well.
And I'm not trying to tell them what they should or shouldn't do though, because I think that they can make their own decisions.
Exactly. And that's,
I guess that's also not my personality,
Yeah, it's not mine either. Especially with this kind of stuff. Like, I used to smoke a pack and a half of cigarettes a day. Like, people tell me all the time to stop smoking cigarettes. I didn't fucking listen to them once. So it's kind of the same thing with this. It really is. Like, obviously, like, smoking cigarettes, like, isn't like contagious like this is, but secondhand smoke is a thing, and it's bad for the smoker's health. And so it's in the same vein, but I didn't listen to a single word anyone said. I eventually stopped. I eventually started vaping, and I definitely noticed that it's a little bit better for me in terms of like my health, but it's definitely still not good. But it's,
I noticed that for myself that if somebody tells me to do something,
you don't want to do it.
I do not want to do it.
A lot of people I think have that reaction, right?
You could tell me to go get exercise and eat healthy. People tell me that, but like, you could tell me the something that's the best thing that I should do for my life, and I will not do
He's
it.
Like, no, I'm not gonna do that. You told me to do it. You don't tell me how to live my life. You're
exactly,
not my dad,
dude. It's the worst.
Yeah.
Even when my parents do that now, I'm like,
yeah.
I don't. Anecdote here, and I promise this to everybody out there: this podcast is not just going to be about COVID.
No, it's not. We're going to talk about.
We're going to talk about pretty much everything else besides COVID. Hopefully, after
100%. Yeah.
But man, when I don't know why, so a weird thing that happens when I go home to visit my parents is we recycle, and my family do trash and recycle, and so but my mom will consistently ask me to take out some recycling. We use a can of beans for dinner or whatever, and like, hey Mitch, could you go take this to recycling bin?
Yeah,
totally fair ask.
Yeah,
but because she's asking me to do that out of the blue, when maybe I'm not in the right mindset, you're like, maybe I'm just chilling on the couch, I'm like, I'm just trying to chill, and you're asking me to go recycle. I don't know why, but I'll get like seething inside, which I'm not an angry person. I don't get mad, but when she asks me to recycle, I get so mad.
You're like, I am on the couch. I am relaxing. How dare you?
And I think
interrupt my zen.
That the people want me to do, or like have expectations, or the expectations that I need to do that
on their time. Right.
Yeah,
in that exact moment. It's like, does it really matter if I take the recycling out right now or in an hour? Yeah. Like, come on, Yep.
But to be honest, I've never felt more. I never feel more childish when that happens, because I'm like, all right, just let it simmer down.
Breathe.
Like, because I'm like, why am I so mad about this?
This is ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, no, it's funny though. It's like it's 100% that thing. And like, I have a friend, and when I'm like, man, you really should just go get vaccinated. It was approved by like the FDA, like the Pfizer vaccination. Like, I know one of your whole things, man, was like, it's not approved, and we don't know the long-term effects. And I was like, well, now here's your proof. FDA said it's good to go. And he was like, well, now just because you told me to do it, I'm not gonna do it.
And I was like,
I was like, well, you know what, dude, screw you. And he's like, screw you. And I'm like, cheers. And then we move on with our day. And it's whatever.
And you're still friends.
Yeah, 100% we're still friends. And like, we have radically different political opinions and radically different opinions on COVID and all kinds of stuff, but we're still friends. And actually, I guess that kind of segues me into a little anecdote and a topic maybe we should address for the remaining time today, is talking to people with different opinions of yourself, right? And so increasingly, I think maybe we touched on it a little bit with technology previously, or maybe that was just us at a happy hour one time. I can't really recall. Keep it open, guys. Welcome. Pull up a stool. But so this guys, I'm doing it. All right, I'm gonna do the news thing. Right? Have you seen what happened in the news today?
No, Aaron, how old are you, dude?
the Biden vaccine mandate, right? And I haven't really dived too deep into it because I've just been busy with work, and then my mom's visiting from New York, so I've just been having fun hanging out with her. But I really do need to like dig into what that mandate means for everybody and for people and stuff like that. But so my buddy, who I will not name, I'm sure he wouldn't care if I did, but I won't. He was freaking out about the mandate. And we were in a Discord call. We were playing video games with some friends, and he was like, have you guys seen this? Oh my God, this is going to cause a civil war. Oh man, like this is a violation of amendment rights and the Constitution. He's going off on all this stuff. And my first impulse was I should just remove myself from this conversation, because I have radically different opinions than he does on some of those topics. But then my second thought was, no, I have to have this conversation with my friend, because
why? For your sake or his sake?
No, for the sake of conversation, communication, and like the spread of ideas and the exchange of ideas, right? So to zoom out, what I have been seeing in America and what has been talked about, over the last couple of years with the rise of social media and stuff like that, is we put ourselves into an information bubble with our feeds and our news and our friends, and we have more control than we've ever had over what information we consume, how we consume it, when we consume it, who we talk to about it. And so a lot of us, myself included at times, are living in echo chambers where you're only hearing and speaking opinions that you agree with and other people agree with, and you're just it's and so I think that's a really detrimental thing in the long term for this country and for the world, because it creates even bigger rifts between groups of people. So that's why my initial, like, everyone has that gut reaction, right? Because it's always like, oh, don't talk politics at the dinner table, and and like, don't talk politics or friends or family, it's gonna become a fight. It's like, well, it shouldn't become a fight. And if it does, then you say fuck you, cheers, and you hug, and like, whatever, you move on from it, right? Like, if you care about your friends and care about your family, sometimes you have to have those hard conversations, even if you don't get to a positive resolution or a compromise or anything. You at least have to have those conversations, I think, because I think it's a disservice to yourself and your loved ones or your friends to not understand where they're coming from and what they believe and why they believe it. And again, I'm not saying that I'm right and he's wrong, and I'm not saying he's right and I'm wrong. It's more so, instead of running away from those conversations, I'm trying to have them more often with people actively, because it's like, this might not be the most pleasant conversation, and we might get a little heated, but it has to happen because we're getting too fucking comfortable living in our echo chambers and in our bubbles.
Right.
And I think long term it's a problem.
Your perception of the world changes, right? Whenever you have, and I'm not often on social media a ton, but when if you're in this echo chamber, you're in this bubble, you get feedback on your own ideas, right? So your friends and your people in your bubble who are also expressing these ideas, they're giving you, it's like a feedback loop, right?
It is.
Like,
it's a feedback loop, an echo chamber.
Post something, right?
It's a validation of your opinion and their opinion.
And you're like, okay,
a continuous cycle.
My opinion's absolutely right, because all 800 to 1,000 people in
liked my post,
right? They all think the same thing,
right? Exactly.
And the posts are not becoming, but oftentimes I would say are less and less nuanced. They're just very like
emotional.
Everybody needs to do X or something like that, right? Like,
very general.
And then the feedback begins, and you're like, okay, well, this is the right opinion. This is the worldwide right opinion.
And then, so if anyone combats that opinion, your first gut instinct is, oh, well, you're wrong. And it's like, they might not be. And you might be.
Why are you wrong? Because all 1,000
people said that I'm right. Exactly. And so it creates that fissure, right? It increases the distance between different groups of people and the gap in social, harmony, right? Like,
I think you lose the skill to be able to have the conversation too. And then that itself is a feedback loop, but in a different way, though, where you just keep spiraling, not having these conversations at this level. Then it gets deeper and deeper, and then the issues become more and more.
Right? Yes, exactly.
And then you can't have the conversation because you've never had it before.
Exactly. And then that's when long term scary things can happen, right? If 2 groups, 3 groups, 4 groups, 5 groups, whatever, it doesn't matter. If those groups can't have productive conversations with each other and understand where each person's coming from and really put in the effort to learn from each other, even if you vehemently disagree with one another, then at some point things turn to violence, or they turn to harassment, or they turn to hate speech and slander, and it can get really ugly, right? And we've already seen that stuff. We've seen that stuff already happen. And so again too, is like, it sucks sometimes to try to have those conversations, and I won't sugarcoat it at all. Like, it can be really painful, it can be infuriating, it can be traumatic, it can be triggering, but like you said, we have to try to force those conversations to happen before it gets worse and things become entrenched, and the divide between us gets deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper
until what people fear is the Civil War, right?
Yeah, exactly, right. People fear a Civil War. That's what I keep hearing, like on the internet and different podcasts, or talking to friends or whatever. Is like, we're gonna keep dividing so far and so much that eventually that this country will split. One side or the other.
I mean, all great civilizations fall, right? So
100%, it's true. Some people would say America will never fall, and it's like, man, America is just like every other great civilization. There's a rise and a fall. I agree. So, but I mean,
it is. I think that what people, and the skill is, debate, conversation, that's a skill, right? It's not just to be able to actually do that, right? It's learned. It's not typically something that we're
like ingrained in you.
Right. And I think that something that, you do well just from, us being friends is you listen a ton. And I try to do that too in my conversations more and more these days, because I need to listen more. But but I think that a lot of people don't listen and understand,
actively listen.
Right. That, I don't know, my parents have very differing opinions from me, politically, culturally, etc. But I love hearing their opinions, because it makes up who they are. And
totally.
And it's different. I mean, it challenges your own opinion.
Exactly. It challenges your own opinion 100%. And that's exactly what you want, right? That's kind of like what I'm driving at here. So thank you for kind of helping me find the words. Is like, it helps you kind of like stress test your own thoughts, your own opinions, by having those conversations with friends and family, or just even strangers. I mean, fuck it. You're at a bar and you're talking to someone, and I
love doing that. Dude.
Yeah, same. I do too. And as long as it's, it doesn't cross a line where you start a bar fight, but like, I mean, those can be fun, but that's a whole nother conversation. Don't.
I think it's as long as you're not trying to win.
It's rude. Yeah. That is rude. It's rude. Okay.
That's rude.
That's the second one for this episode. Don't start bar fights. It's rude. But as you're saying, it's like you have to, stress test your own opinion and think a little bit more about it. And I think for me, especially when I'm having a conversation with someone and they're saying stuff that I, strongly disagree with or have strong opinions against, instead of being like, no, dude, screw you, you're wrong. Like, I can't believe you believe that. You're stupid. I try to put myself in their shoes. I try to, while they're talking and listening, I try to imagine. It's harder to do with people you don't know as well, but people that you've gotten to know a little bit more, and their upbringing, or their religious beliefs, and their personality a little bit better, and their likes and their dislikes, trying to put yourself in their perspective and maybe be them for 5 minutes and think about, why does this work for their brain, like their personality, like why is it that they believe these things? Then it becomes a little bit more palatable, and it becomes a little bit more easy to understand, I think, and connect with them, even though you disagree,
Yeah. And what I was saying a little bit earlier was I think that too many people are out to win a conversation.
Dude, that is the call out of the century. No, you're right.
You're not going to change somebody's mind. I mean, most of the time people are pretty ingrained in what
hard set in their ways. No, I think that's the nail on the head. You hit it right there. I cannot tell you how many times I've been in these kinds of debates about things, and people will get all up in arms, and I'll be like, I'm not trying to convince you, right?
We're just conversing.
Yeah, we're just talking,
exchanging ideas.
And then it'll change. Like, some people be like, oh, all right. And then we just like have the conversation, and it's a lot better. But I think you really hit the nail on the head there. That is how a lot of people approach those types of things. Is this conversation isn't productive unless I convince you that I'm right. That is not the case. And that's not the goal of the conversations that I have ever. Like, unless, like, I don't know, you're asking me for help buying a car. And I'm telling you, no, you gotta go for the Toyota, man. Trust me, I crunched the numbers on this. The Toyota's the best bet. Trust.
That'll get you to 300,000 miles.
Shout out Toyota. No, that's not an ad, I promise. But
if Toyota wants to sponsor,
totally open to discussion. Our email is keepitopenpodcast@gmail.com. And I think it's interesting to talk about that too, because I think that lens of winning or being right, I think it permeates a lot of things, man. I think it permeates a lot of different like aspects of life. Like when you see, and I know you're not like super ingrained on social media, which you're going to have to do a little bit more social media surfing for the podcast, my friend.
I will be. It's a skill I'm going to have to hone.
Yeah. 100%. I think, like I was saying, it permeates more than just like difficult conversations or like disagreements or like arguments or whatever. It's when you see someone on Instagram and they've got the nice car and the good body and the perfect smile and the nice bag or the good sneakers, or they've whatever, they're male or female, doesn't matter, right? You can tell they're living, right? Like they got some money, they're living it up. Their story is always like, wow, like I think that the primal response that we have is that person's winning. You know, like
it's competitive, right?
It's competitive, and I think that that's the perfect word. Thank you again for helping me like nail it down. Is because I waffle. We know I waffle. The at least in Western society, I think right now, America and stuff like that, and I mean it's definitely bled to like Europe and Asia, but winning at life is like a mindset. Like life is now a competitive thing, it feels like. And I've heard from a lot of friends, like most recently I was talking to a friend of mine and she told me that she deleted Instagram and Twitter and all of that because it was giving her anxiety and stressing her out because she was comparing herself to other people, and not just like professionally or like, you know, financially, but like socially. Like she was getting real hung up on seeing people in like quote unquote perfect relationships, and she was envious of that, and she's like, why don't I have that? Like you know, like I could be, I'm deserving of that. And you know what I told her is, yeah, you are deserving of that. You're funny, you're smart, you're cool, you play video games, like fuck yeah, like you're rad. So don't compare yourself to what they have, because guys, it's all a lie.
Yeah, it is. It's absolutely.
Everyone's unhappy about something. Everyone's fighting about something. Right. But yeah, I mean, you know, and I'll let you take it away here, but I think that spirit, that combative, competitive spirit, has permeated our culture, and I'm not really sure why. I don't really know how we got there.
Yeah, I think it. Well, not to make this theoretical. This is probably another conversation, but I really, it just stems from capitalism. And not to get. Right. Again, not to I actually I hate that I said that, because I feel like everything I'm going to say just stems back to that. But
no, go for it, man.
Like business is competitive, and business is what drives this country forward.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Keep going.
And so that mentality, though, I think permeates elsewhere, right? Like we want to show off. So from a social perspective, right, we want to show off because we want to gain social status, attract a partner, you know, have power over, like it's a social power technically, but like having that sort of social currency is a power, right? Like it is status. It is, you know, like, and so I think it comes from like, at the very core of capitalism is competition and innovation and speed, and I think that has permeated, and I think a lot of it's innate to human beings too.
I was gonna say, like, kind of what you're saying here,
right?
Like, it almost comes back to an animalistic, like a primal
I think thing. It's absolutely primal.
And then the sense of tribe and community and all that stuff, and it's us versus the others. It's and I think you're right, though,
with a little bit of like the peacock too. I mean, like we want to show off.
And I think you're right, though. I think that the business
comes back to like
capitalism,
money, power, or sex,
power.
Right? Like,
Exactly. Yeah. No, totally. I mean, well, Freud would say like everything is related to sex, and like so it's like, you know, like having attention and having people fawn over you or admire you. It's all kind of stroking your ego, right? It's all making you feel better and more powerful about who you are as a person. But so, and I think that's super interesting, and I think that like you know, when it comes down to it, I mean, it's all false, right? Like, you know, I know people that have massive followings, and I know that they're human beings just like me, and they deal with, you know, the same kind of shit that I deal with. But they might do it in the $3 million mansion, and I'm doing it in an apartment.
Right.
So at the end of the day, like, we're all really playing the same game, and we're all really dealing with the same, you know, pitfalls, but some people just do it in a better looking way. And and that can affect, you know, kind of the way that we look at things, right? Like, because I spend a lot of time watching Twitch and, you know, gamers and, you know, IRL streamers and all that stuff. I'm a big fan of that kind of content, and YouTube and whatnot. And their personalities, right? Like it's not real. It's fabricated. It's entertainment. It's it's not I mean, well, some of them are, you know, some of them have a more like journalistic focus on the content, right? But for the most part, people are entertainers. They're trying to, you know, get views and get clips and get laughs and clicks and, you know, right, manipulate kind of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and so, I guess it was a bit of a hard turn here getting on this topic, but yeah, I think that, that cultural stigma on like winning and like winning at everything, like winning at life, winning in your career, winning in your relationship, winning in
conversations,
winning a conversation, being right.
On the same page with that one.
Yeah,
right.
And it's the thing is like no one's perfect, right? Like no one is winning all those things. If someone is, please introduce me to them. I would love to interview them on the podcast and figure out what the secret sauce is.
Jesus?
Yes. Yeah,
neither of us is really religious.
No, we're not.
And no shame if you are, but but neither of us are. So
yeah, we'll see, and we'll get into that. That's another topic we can definitely get into, because my father's a rabbi, and so I was raised in a religious household, and in a religious community, and so we can definitely dive into that on another episode. I'm totally game for that, because it plays such a huge part in our lives. But and I just wish that people could slow down a little bit, and I feel like that winning culture has inspired like a lack of empathy. I think that's also like the other thing that I have noticed in society and like social structures. Like, oh, you don't agree with me? Oh, you have different opinions than me? Well, fuck you. And it's like, holy shit.
Yeah, well,
like that's aggressive.
Fuck you, like, unfollow. And then block. I will never see your opinion again.
Yeah.
And then
and that's what I was
this cycle, right?
That's what I was going back to at the beginning is like that's the feed, that's the bubble, that's the feedback loop, and the echo chamber is like if someone has a different opinion and offends you, block, unfollow. Then you're just,
I hate to say it's an easy life.
Like, it is.
You don't need to see conversing opinions.
And that's dangerous. Yeah. That's really dangerous.
Very dangerous. Yeah.
And so, I mean, there's a bunch of articles and I've watched some podcasts or listened to some podcasts and watched some YouTube videos about it. I mean, it's definitely being talked about and studied, in the psychological fields and stuff like that. And people are really starting to get some actual like results on these studies about technology and stuff. And I mean, dude, like I can't imagine being a teenager or preteen
right now
in this time. Like being a young adult, like I'm 28, like this is a great time to be 28. Like like I mean, technology and all this stuff. I mean, aside from the pandemic and all the terrible things going on in the world, aside from all that, it's a pretty great time to be a young adult. Like we have a lot of
life is good
really cool shit, right? So as much as there are negative things going on, like it's a good time to be alive. But for a younger person, oh my god, like
I can't imagine growing up from childhood with a phone,
with a smartphone,
or an iPad or something like that,
dude. And just the attachment that you have to it, and the amount of I think a lot of what they have been talking about is the ego and the validation that people seek now. It's like ingrained, like followers on Instagram and like likes on a picture, or like how many views your TikTok video got. Oh, dude.
Right.
Okay. All right. We can change topics here in a minute, whatever. The last thing I have to bring up that just like shook me to my core last night.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So I was just chilling with some friends after having dinner with my mom. I was in a great mood. It was awesome. And I'm scrolling through my phone, which I really don't go on my phone very often. I'd say I'm probably on like Instagram or something, or Twitter for like an hour or two a day max, probably less, to be honest. I'm mainly on my computer. But I don't really consume too much of that stuff. And so I'm scrolling through Instagram Live, which is very similar to TikTok. Sometimes they're reposts from TikTok.
Right.
And it was she was probably a nurse or something. Cute girl. She had a mask on. She's in a hospital, and she's doing one of those trendy TikTok dances. That's like one of the newer ones. And it's the title of the video, on the screen as she's dancing is "How to Balance School and TikTok." And so as I'm watching it, she's doing the dance, and then, she like little like things are popping up on the side of like tips, right?
Yep.
And so when I
you sound so old by now, by the way,
dude.
For anybody who knows TikTok, this is elementary here.
Yeah, exactly. Like elementary Watson. It's like anyone younger than like 28 probably isn't gonna fucking get that reference. But so the tips are popping up, and I'm watching it, and like my eyebrow continues to rise, because when I saw the title pop up and she's dancing, I'm like, okay, so like how to balance like school and watching TikTok. Okay, cool. Like sure. And then as I watched the video, I realized that that's not it at all. It's how to balance school with recording content for TikTok. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, fuck. I was like, that's what these kids are doing. They don't just watch content anymore. Everyone
they're all making
is creating content and trying to be a content creator.
Right.
Dude, it blew my mind. I was like, holy shit. Like, the fact that that video exists, like how to balance school and like homework.
Yeah, it was probably pretty popular too.
Yeah, it was. It had a lot of fucking likes and views. And how to balance school with like making content. I was just like, what? Like, that's insane. Like,
and back to what we were talking about before with it kind of being you get a power, you get, I think we almost said it was a false power.
Yeah, it's a false hubris, false ego.
Now, I think it is for us, but as that becomes more and more
it's
regular life for young people, it becomes real, right?
Yeah, it becomes tangible.
When older people are like, well, that's none of that matters in the quote unquote, real world,
the grand scheme,
but
it will.
It does.
Well, I mean, there's already been TikTok stars. There was, I forget what her name was. There was like a 16-year-old girl, and she blew up like overnight practically on TikTok.
Yeah, she Charlie,
something like that. Yeah,
this is not free publicity. This is not free publicity.
No, it's not. But she blew up like overnight, millions of followers, and like, so I mean, and then she's gonna have a career off that. Like, she's gonna make money off that. She's basically got like entry-level celebrity. And it started with like movie celebrities and stuff like that, musicians, and then we had what was next? We had like Instagram or like Facebook, and then like Twitch and YouTube. I know like YouTubers were a huge thing over the last few years, and now it's like
not TikTokers, right?
And so
it's a more modern day celebrity, and
exactly.
And there's one for every niche, right?
Yes.
So I think the way we think about celebrity too is gonna change quite a bit.
Oh, definitely, it's already changing.
Right. But we just don't have a new term. I guess influencer was the most recent term, but
yeah, influencer is the most current one, and and that in itself, like that title is off-putting to me, like,
and that's
personally.
A real ego, like
it is,
even though it's kind of false, like depending on how far you go with it, though, right? I mean, it becomes real at a certain point, which. And then it translates to real power, to real money, to real
actual influence,
status, right? And and not to say, I mean, good for them, I guess, but
totally.
It's
I mean,
we're not trying to do anything different here, right?
No, not at all, not at all. In a sense, we are trying to do the same thing. I think that the thing is that we're older, and I think we have a little bit more of a based perspective. If we're going to toot our own like horn on it, is that like I think we've thought about this stuff a little bit more, and I think that the thing is too is like I've seen some creators and stuff like that who started young and got older and have definitely matured into their role. And I see some creators that are a little bit younger that, have some maturing to do. And so it's not just because you hit it big young doesn't mean that you're going to be a shithead, right? Like, but they are hitting
that's
it
where
young.
It's dangerous though, is when they do hit it big young.
Yeah.
And then that's their worldview.
Yep.
Is already solidified at whatever age you hit it big. Then you start to preach that worldview, and then other people latch onto that, right? So if your worldview is, kind of dangerous to people, and then you're preaching that, right? It seems to be, it's validated, right? Because you're a celebrity, you're an influencer.
And then you create that echo chamber within your community.
Others, exactly.
Right? Like if you have a following of like 10 million or 8 million, not everyone's going to agree with you out of those 10 million, but probably a solid portion, a solid percentage will.
I mean, you're just getting in front of more people than anybody else, right?
Right. And if they like you, if they like your personality, then they're much more inclined to, agree with your political or social viewpoints, right? Your worldview. And
that's where I think it starts to get
a little hairy.
It's tricky. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really tricky.
100%, man. 100%. But I think like the takeaway from this conversation, especially if we throw it into the context of the original topic, which was COVID and that panic and that terror, and kind of how we did come together as a nation in that moment, and how we did work together, I think, to help each other and talk to each other and allay each other's fears and pull each other through.
At the beginning, though.
At the beginning.
Yeah, then it kind of split.
Damn it, Mitchell, I was going something. No,
sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. You're totally right. At the beginning. I think that to tie the two together, it's like because of that quarantine and everything, I think that a lot of lines did get drawn because everyone was separated, you know, after the first couple months, right? Like in the beginning, like you said, like everyone was kind of like, we got to work together and take care of each other and, you know, social distance and wear masks. And then, you know, a month or so in, people are like, this shit isn't real. And people are like, yes, it is. And then, you know, that's when the arguments and the fissure started to grow. But I think like we have to marry the two together is like, you know, that isolation doesn't have to be a negative thing. It doesn't have to draw, you know, lines in the sand between people. It can be a positive thing. It can be an ability to take the time to have a conversation with someone about their experience, like you and I did today, and share that experience and share those,
understand where they're coming from.
Exactly. And share those struggles and those fears and all of that. And, you know, those conversations need to be had is kind of where I'm getting. It's not about winning. It's not about, you know, who's right and who's wrong and whether you should or should not wear a mask. It's about hearing the other person, you know?
Agreed. All right, should we wrap it up?
Yeah, let's do it. Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us, guys and gals, I should say. This was episode 2 of the Keep It Open podcast. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Mitchell.
And we hope to see you on episode 3. I promise we will not talk about COVID. Promise.
I make no such promises. Thanks for listening.
Appreciate it, guys. See you on the next one.